Alright, so this is Erie Clark. Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Excuse me, whose channel now?
Well, a lot of celebrities and musicians have gotten on the alcohol bandwagon, and now Slipknot has decided to jump in with their signature number 9 Iowa whiskey.
Oh yeah.
So, before we taste this, and I'm really looking forward to it, let's take a moment and just talk about Slipknot for a bit.
One of my favorite Slipknot moments was this guy right here in our old apartment a million years ago. The first time we sat down and watched that Disaster Pieces DVD for the first time. That was
Good DVD, good concert.
I'm not really a big fan of them now, but I really liked their older stuff, their first 3 albums especially. Of course, that was the era when I was really, when it was still new and fresh.
Okay. I gotta say, the first time I heard their stuff, and a friend of mine at the time who introduced them to me, and this was his favorite band at the time. He showed me the very first album, starting with the intro, just put the CD in, hit play. I had never heard music that sounded like that. Like, I was familiar with heavier music by that point, but I wasn't familiar with, something like this. And it sounded scary. Like, so many bands don't do that. Like, almost nobody does that, and especially even now, no one does that. But for the most part, Slipknot's been fairly consistent with that. So I think that's something I definitely give them credit for. Although I don't think it's ever going to hold the candle to the original album, in terms of the scariness and the just the raw aggression. Even though they did kind of bring back the aggression really well with The Great Chapter, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. So I definitely respect them for those things. They've been a huge influence on me as like a songwriter too, with their blending of the heaviness and the scary vibes.
Well, senior year, we were doing the sidewalk art school, or this little sidewalk art project. It was for senior year, and everybody, all the kids had different things. And I remember these other kids were doing one, and it was just a Slipknot logo. I had no idea who this band was at the time, but I just saw it and I was intrigued. I didn't know anything about the band or even what the logo was from. And it wouldn't be but 2 years later until I figured out, actually heard one of their songs, and ever since then I was pretty hooked, because this was still the Iowa self-titled era. And the self-titled I love. It's my favorite Slipknot album by a long shot. I really love Iowa. Third album, which is divisive amongst fans, I love as well. And then kind of fell off a little bit, although it's gone. Started to get back into it a little more in the last 10 years. But I am a fan. I have the shirt. I have some of their albums. I've seen them in concert once. So I am a fan, not a huge fan.
Well, with that said, let's hope this is better than Iron Maiden's beer.
They made a beer? I imagine that would be disappointing, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be difficult to do.
Honestly.
whiskey's always going to be
Also, what I find interesting is the fact that this isn't a blended whiskey. So they would have had to have had the idea to do this very early on and been kind of chipping away at it for some time, or was working with somebody who's already distilling and decided to work on that together.
I think I read something online about, because it's from a brewery in like Iowa or something, and they were working.
That's where they're from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it's where they're it's technically not their second album. It's technically their third. I made a mistake a second ago because I had forgotten. Everyone makes that mistake.
I guess that is technically true. The first album is technically Make Me Kill Your People.
Exactly. And
that copy that.
How could you forget?
Okay, this is a cork. I'll say it's not. I'm twisting and it's not coming up very well.
Yeah.
But it's the cork,
Okay.
and I almost blocked myself in the chin. I almost blocked myself in the chin
I saw it.
doing that.
All right.
Okay.
here we
Well,
go.
this is my channel. Yeah, I'm looking at you over there. So I'm for myself first. Okay. So load her up.
Yep. First taste really is our first time tasting this.
No idea what to expect.
I don't either.
I just wanted us to establish if we had bias or not. That's kind of why we talked about.
Oh, I think I poured slightly more in yours.
Oh, interesting.
But because that was a mistake. Let me
Yeah, that's
just top this off.
That's
You see that? He's trying to liquor me up.
Hey, why don't I get a taste? Why was I not invited?
well. It's first slip.
Or as some of us like to affectionately refer to them as a knot.
Yep.
So,
All right.
raise your glasses,
Let's go ahead and
do the clink.
This will go.
That works.
All right.
Alright.
Here we go.
It's actually real smooth. It's way smoother than I thought this was going to be. Also, this is 90 proof.
Yeah.
It's actually a very smooth. It's very. I want to say it's syrupy. It's got good viscosity to it. It's got hints of maple actually. Granted, it's not meant to be sweet necessarily, but it tastes like a very mapley bourbon. So, and it's very smooth too. Like, I would sip this on ice and think it's delicious. So, let's be honest, a good chunk of what you're probably paying for is the brilliant logo and how nice this thing looks. But, and just for if you're a huge fan of Slipknot, but honestly, okay, let's talk for a minute. I really want to hear what you guys have to say, but I need to take a jab at Bethesda real quick. They made a rum and it tasted terrible, right? And it's famous for being absolutely horrible. Slipknot made a whiskey and it's actually a really good whiskey. So
Yeah.
if you like whiskey, it's good stuff.
I'm a big whiskey fan. That's my go-to as far as the spirits go. Yeah, I like this. It's obviously strong, which you would expect, but that doesn't mean it doesn't go down smooth. Yeah, tastes really good. I actually wouldn't mind, just for the sake of posterity, maybe have another one and see what we think of after the second one. I'm a big fan of giving it not one but two tastes.
Yeah. So what do you think before we do that? I'm already gonna pour. Do you even want a second one?
Well, sure, why the hell not?
Alright.
But just
Fill my
what do you
shot
think?
glass only halfway, please.
Okay.
So you're saying it's strong?
Quite a
or-
bit.
Yeah, it's definitely strong.
I mean, it's definitely strong, but you would expect it. It's straight shot.
Yeah. With ice, it would be diluted slightly, which is probably the better way. Which is not probably. It's definitely the better way to have a good bourbon, and especially if we're gonna have Scotch. But this is just bourbon, which it tastes like a bourbon. It's advertised as just being whiskey, but to me, it definitely has the viscosity and sweetness of a bourbon. I would classify this as a bourbon. I don't know if it legally classifies as a bourbon, but I would go with it.
It is reminiscent.
Because I've had cheap bourbons that taste this good. And I accidentally poured myself almost a double shot, but maybe that wasn't it.
Okay.
So that's okay.
Alright, so.
Just like with anything, the second taste is always different from the first.
Yeah.
So, alright, let's give it a second try.
I understand why Thrax can't hear me, but what about you two? What's your excuse?
Yeah, after that second shot, yeah, this is definitely a good whiskey. And and I mean that as it's pretty good straight. I mean, would go great in a cocktail. But even straight, yeah. I mean, I don't immediately feel the need to, have a chaser or something. So, yeah, I think
I don't
this
want
is
to
pretty
drink
good.
that chaser because it's strong.
It is very strong. I'm a little bit of a lightweight. I'll just establish that.
Oh, I know I'm lightweight. I didn't used to be.
I think Beery not so much. Beery's not so much of a lightweight. But,
Not at all.
But yeah, it's strong but good. I give it a thumbs up. If you like whiskey, I would say give it a go.
I'll give it 2 thumbs up and 2 big toes up.
Out of how many?
That was 2 thumbs up and 2 big toes.
So that would technically be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, he's got a point.
For compared to what I was expecting, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I gotta say, I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be that good. I was expecting it to be decent, but that's actually, I mean, if you like Pendleton, it's not as sweet or as smooth as Pendleton, but the taste kind of reminds me of Pendleton a little bit. So that's what that makes me think of, because I've had quite a few different bourbons, and that definitely sits nicely there. I don't know if I'd compare it to Elijah Craig. It costs more than Elijah Craig by a small margin. But it definitely sits nicely next to those. So I mean, if you've got a taste for one, you'll enjoy the other for sure. You mentioned a little bit before I had to do the cutaway about that woody flavor, and so they definitely aged this correctly because you definitely taste the oak barrels that they were aged in. So I'm going to read the back of the bottle just since I'm going to read it anyway because I want to know, but I'm just going to read it out loud for everybody. Okay, so Slipknot and Cedar Ridge Distillery, that explains it. 2 groups of people born and raised in Iowa and committed to quality and hard work. I gotta say, yeah, I gotta hand Slipknot. They definitely are one of the harder working bands I've known about, and like to pull up every once in a while. We collaborated on Number 9 whiskey, which in addition to Iowa corn, gets some extra spice from its rye content. I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. Live life and always be safe. Cheers, Clown.
Yes.
So Clown wrote the back of the bottle. So I mean that adds to the charm for sure. I mean one of the percussionists is like he doesn't play the guitar, he doesn't play bass, he doesn't actually play on the drum set itself. But I mean he's one of the percussionists, but he's like he's like this figurehead member of the band, and he's kind of been a big mouthpiece almost as much as Corey Taylor himself.
I was just saying something.
Yeah, I know, and that
Sean Cranan, Clown. He's a founding member. He's the only founding member, as far as I know.
That's
still in the
true.
band, as far as
That's
I know.
right.
It was Joey Jordison, Sean Cranan, and Paul Gray, and I think a few other members which aren't there. I know of the 3 of those 3 who were in the famous lineup. It's just Clown now. Who's one of the originals. And yeah, he was the main one spearheading this whiskey, as far as I know. So that makes sense.
I noticed there's a spice in there. Right.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say I would give it a thumbs up. Definitely a good whiskey. I would have straight. I would absolutely use it in cocktail mixture.
I kind of like the idea of, throwing some ice and maybe just a splash in it.
I think if I were to put it on a scale, it would be 2 different scales because one, I'd compare it to every other whiskey I've ever had. So for that, this compared to every other whiskey I've ever had ever a day in my life, I would put it at a 7.5.
Yeah, that's about
a solid 7.5. As far as this experience goes, and as far as its flavor profile in and of itself, I rated an easy 8. Very easy, no apologies, give it 8. However, the initial price might sway people from thinking differently into thinking. So
Yeah, we'll be.
yeah, that is a big part of it. So I mean, a lot of this will very much hinge. A lot of this will very much hinge on your appreciation for Slipknot. Other than that, you're most likely you're already going to be buying Pendleton or Elijah Craig or even trying to think who else is a good bourbon. That's not bottom shelf. Because I'm thinking of a lot of the bottom shelf stuff I used to have. I'm thinking middle shelf because it belongs more. Or like it belongs like here you got like say here.
Hey, how are you doing that?
Yes, Candy, I've got magic too.
Oh, so you heard me that time, huh?
So here you've got your so see here on the bottom you've got your Kentucky Deluxe, Black Velvet, Canadian Limited, stuff like that. Your bottom shelf, you're getting it just because you want to get my stuff. And then you've got say
Wild turkey.
Wild turd.
oh, Wild Turkey's more beer, but
Their American honey's pretty good. Wild turkey.
oh yeah it is. It's real good. But so we're talking more. But yeah, as you climb up.
KG is bottom of the barrel though.
Well, let's say up here is like your aged Glenfiddichs and your Jameson limited barrels. I would put it probably about. I put Slipknot's Iowa number 9 about. They've also got another one which is like a reserve brand, like how certain distilleries will have reserves, which means they had barrels full of whiskey that they had effectively either forgotten about or purposefully set aside to age even longer to sell at a much later date. And apparently they've got that branded with their stuff as well. I'd be very interested to taste that. I'd be very puzzled as to how you get your hands on it, because if you can get your hands on it, I would recommend it. If not, only just for the bottle, honestly, you're getting some decent whiskey for the price too if you're a collector. But I don't know where you're going to find it. So it's like its availability is not 100% widespread. You might think, oh, well, at the liquor store that I go to, they've got them. And it's like, well, that's wonderful. But, our buddy Axum here had to actually special order it in order to get it here in Oklahoma. So, but yeah, so that's the rating I would give it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I would. No really other way to say it other than just really enjoyed it. I do think it's a pretty good whiskey. I mean, I'd buy it again.
I think it make a great sipping whiskey.
Okay.
I mean, when I think about whiskey, I would just buy regularly. This is about the cost, more or less, what I would pay for that bottle for higher shelf. So yeah, I would buy it again.
Jones Jack.
Yeah.
Well, that about wraps it up. Thank you for watching, and there will definitely be more stuff in the future, hopefully sooner than later.
We all know why everyone watches this channel, and it's me.
Yes, I know. Everybody knows.
On the off chance you want to see some more of me, check out When Games Happen, right here on this channel.